Once upon a time, a man had a charming wife and they had only one daughter together, named Cinderella. One night, the mother passed away, leaving her very young Cinderella behind with the father. After a year, the father remarried again to a lady named Molly, who was very proud and disdainful. Molly had two daughters of her own who inherited her nasty personality. Cinderella found her situation at home changed for the worse. Despite this, Cinderella treated her personal problems at home with patience and without ever complaining to her father. Even though Cinderella was left to do all the heavy-duty chores, she still grew more lovely in the face and figure every year. One day, the king's son, the prince, gave an invitation to all the qualified guests to attend the grand ball. Molly's two daughters, Nancy and Karen, were selected, and they were the talk of the town based on the beautiful dresses they wore. At last, the day of the grand ball have arrived. Nancy and Karen were dancing in high spirits as they got on their carriage and ride away. Cinderella watched all of this hidden behind her dirty mob and cried bitterly as she was not invited. And as she was sobbing, her godmother, the fairy, appeared before her. "Cinderella," said the fairy, "I am your godmother, and I have come here for your mother's sake to cheer you up. Now, dry your eyes because I will help you go to the grand ball together, but only under one condition. You must do as I tell you. Now go and get me a pumpkin." Cinderella obeyed and brought a pumpkin to her godmother. The godmother pulled her wand and waved 3 times in the air before pointing at the pumpkin and turning it into the most beautiful carriage ever seen. Next, the godmother found 6 mouse who were watching on side in awe and used her magic wand to turn them into 6 horses. Then the godmother told Cinderella to find a couple of lizards, to which the godmother turned them into a carriage driver and 6 soldier bodyguards. Finally, the godmother taps on Cinderella's raggedly cloth to turn it into a beautiful dress embroidered with pearls and jewellery. Then the godmother gave Cinderella a pair of new delicate glass slippers. The godmother told Cinderella she must leave the grand ball before midnight and gave her a blessing before Cinderella set off to the party. When Cinderella arrived at the grand ball, her beauty and charm caught everyone's eyes, including the prince. The prince extended his hand to Cinderella and guided her into the ballroom. Cinderella had so much fun dancing with the prince. When the time struck almost close to midnight, Cinderella bid farewell to the prince and accepted the prince's invitation to the next night's ball. The godmother saw how punctual Cinderella was and agreed for her to go to the next night's ball. The next evening, Cinderella went to the ball and had even more fun with the prince than the previous night. She was so occupied with the prince that she forgot the time. The clock made an alarm when it struck midnight at the palace, and in a moment the carriage turned into a pumpkin. The horses back into mouse and the soldier bodyguards back to lizards. Cinderella's cloth transformed back into raggedly cloth. In her haste, she dropped one of her glass slippers, the only thing that did not reverse in magic. Cinderella did not bid farewell to the prince that evening, and so when her 2 stepsisters came home and informed her that the prince had found and picked up a glass slipper, Cinderella was delighted. The next morning, the prince announced his determination to find the owner of the glass slipper, and that he would marry the woman whose foot is an exact fit to the slipper. This announcement stirred great excitement in the kingdom, and ladies of all ranks lined up to make a trail of the slipper. No one seemed to able to fit, and the prince becomes sad. Cinderella decided she should go and try, and when she finally attempted the slipper, it fit her perfectly on her foot. Then Cinderella took out the other slipper, which the prince smiled in great delight. It was her, he thought. At last I found her. The 2 bad step-sisters, Nancy and Karen, saw it was Cinderella who the prince sought after, threw themselves at Cinderella's feet and begged her for forgiveness. Shortly after, Cinderella was married to the prince, and they lived happily ever after.